welcome back to Red Ice Creations Radio. Thank you for tuning in today. Our website, as you know, is redicecreations.com, and we are here doing radio on Thursdays and Sundays. We have loads of other material available for you on our websites. We have we have webcasts, video content, members area, news, and much more, so do check it out. And today we have a really interesting program ahead of us. We have Niki Raapana with us, all the way from Alaska. And we are going to talk about the Anti-Communitarian League. We are also going to talk, of course, then about the communitarians, talk about their philosophy, so to speak, and kind of how this ties together a little bit with globalism, with individuality, liberty, and the emerging global government. And also I want to hear about what Niki considers to be the philosophy or ideology behind all of this that we can see now emerging, as it were, in the world. And Niki's website is simply nikiraapana.com. That's NIKIRAAPANA.com. And from there you can find some more links to her blog and to the Anti-Communitarian League website. Okay, so with that, welcome to the program, Niki. Thank you very much for coming on.
Thank you very much for having me.
I'm really looking forward to this. I want to begin this program, Niki, to define some terms here right away so people kind of can follow along in where we're coming from. If we're going to talk about the Anti-Communitarian League, we need first to, of course, understand what or the communitarians are. I know that in the UK they have something called Common Purpose. Don't know if you've heard about them, but I've heard suggestions that we're dealing with kind of similar groups, or at least ideologies here. But tell us a little bit about the communitarians, Niki.
Okay, in my opinion, communitarianism is the philosophy behind the global government. It is the law being used in all integration for the European states. It's been defined under CAFTA, NAFTA, the emerging union in the Middle East, Africa, everywhere. It's everywhere. China uses it. Russia obviously uses it. All of the communist countries have already been incorporating communitarianism for a long time. The Eastern Germans are really familiar with some of the community policing tactics used to enforce communitarian law. But yeah, it's the global system. I call it the global bureaucracy and the philosophy and the law. So if you talk to me about the global government, communitarianism is going to come up.
So it's a kind of a defining and overarching term to describe all of these things, basically.
Yes, and what they had planned on doing, as far as I can tell, is Amitai Etzioni is the founder of the Communitarian Network at George Washington University, and according to him, the idea just popped up and hit him in the head one day over lunch because the middle was not well represented. The left had its, vocal people, and the right has its vocal people, but the middle, and he claims that most people are in the middle somewhere, so they wanted to represent them, and then he suddenly just came up with all these terms, according to him. That's why my thesis, the historical evolution of communitarian thinking, is a direct rebuttal to Etzioni's claim that he just came up with communitarianism sometime in the late 80s.
So there's something... continue.
Well, you can go back and find the term communitarian used as far back as communitarian Ra in Egypt. It showed up again at different times over the last 2,000 years. I found it in the Vatican archives of something about the confirmation of Christ or something in 300 AD, and then I've seen it again. There was a communitarian church at the same time that the Communist Manifesto was written in 1848. There was a whole communitarian, a guy named Barmby. I have a bunch of stuff about him in a couple articles I've written, that they had used the term before. It's been around, but it just sort of dies out. And then it was reintroduced again under Martin Buber in 1950 or so, out of Jerusalem after Israel got its independence. That's who Etzioni studied under. And then it was reintroduced in upper academia in the late 70s, early 80s, and then by the late 80s, Amitai Etzioni had introduced it to not upper academia, but middle upper academia, and in the White House, and very influential people use all of the philosophy to implement programs. It's about change. In fact, Obama's change is definitely a communitarian change.
Oh, really? Huh.
But so is McCain and Palin's. You see.
So we're surrounded here, as it were, right?
Yes, we are. We are surrounded. It's to me, I find it everywhere. I go study the Columbia Plan Columbia, and I find communitarianism. I study the Philippines local Agenda 21, and there's communitarianism. It's in every local Agenda 21 plan. In fact, it is the philosophy for the entire United Nations Sustainable Development Plan. Huh. And it's also a law in the European Union. You can look it up under it. Most of it now has been transferred, and it's called community law. So community is another word for communitarianism.
Oh. And Amitai Etzioni, tell us a little bit more about this guy. Is it a background in Yale, is it?
Pardon me?
Does he have a background in the Yale? Or has he gone
Yale?
to the school, at Yale?
Yes, he was, within 10 years of, he graduated with his master's from Berkeley. And I've been doing a little bit more reading about going back to things that I read that he wrote before and seeing how they're modifying it. Mm-hmm. They're pretty much writing out his entire military history as an Israeli revolutionary and a soldier in the war against the 7 Arab states in 48. In fact, his studies under Buber have been, they're played down now too. Basically, he came to the United States in like 1954, I think, got his master's from Berkeley in sociology, and then he taught at Columbia University in New York in the sociology department, and then within 10 years he was the head of the department. He's got a long bio. Man's been active in the New World Order project since around 64, I think.
Right.
So, yeah. And then in 1979, he came in under Richard Hardin, special assistant to President Carter, and began advising Carter on the kinds of programs that Etzioni's introduced are character education, the faith-based initiative, Volunteer America, Citizen Corps, the requirements. He calls it the balance between our rights and our responsibilities.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
It's global citizenship. It's the rules for global citizenship mostly. And on the back end, it's other things.
Yes, and is he, let's see here, is he, do you know if he's still alive today?
Yes.
He is.
He's teaching it. He's an instructor, a sociology instructor, and an avid lecturer. He goes all over the world lecturing. Mm-hmm. He's been invited to The Hague. He's on committees to regulate the internet, to tax the internet.
There we go.
Yeah, he's written like 30 books now. My website is 3 years old. The stuff on Etzioni, and at the time it was 26 or 27. So he's written a few books since then, and they're used by every government in the world.
So this is one guy who supplies the emerging global government, if you will, of its ideology, if we can look at it that way. And if we're talking a little bit, let's talk a little bit more about communitarianism and just define kind of more what it actually is all about. You mentioned that it has its roots. Would you say that, for instance, that it's more leaning towards the left, or is this the kind of the golden middle path of these guys in order to merge both the right and the left and get everyone under the same umbrella here? Extrapolate on it for us.
Well, to them it's the ultimate synthesis. It has been an ongoing process of merging the false left, I call it, with the false right, so that they can achieve the false middle. So to me it's a completely ridiculous argument, but it's working very well. And the more people that follow the false left that will come out and fight against the false right, then the solution is always their middle. And they're saying that, well, we can't please everyone, so we'll please, what they're doing is balancing. Balancing is one of their key terms, balancing national law against international law. balancing individual rights against community rights. So
it sounds to me like this is like this is a way for them to bring in the new order structure with a set of cotton mittens. It's like this is not going to be a hard, difficult thing that people are going to really kind of feel the implications of, in that sense, that they're more gonna, it's going to be kind of snuggled up against them, so that it will catch us unguarded, so to speak. And this is something that is sounds like it's very, very soft, but it's seeking the middle way, and yet at the same time, if it would go into full effect or full force, what kind of situation would you think that we would end up in then, politically and economically?
Under this system of government?
Yes.
Absolute totalitarian fascist control. And what that means is, to me, is that the government will have the enforcement power and the corporations will have the employment and economic power. It's called the public-private partnership. It's a brilliant plan. It really is, on every level, because where the government is restrained from having files on private citizens in the United States, the Privacy Act of 1974 here was real clear about what kind of files the government could keep, what kind of information they could have, how it would be stored, who was allowed to share it, et cetera, et cetera. And then it was enacted into law under U.S. Code 552A. And this is what got me started, actually, in all my work, was because the new system of government in Seattle said that they needed more data on all the private citizens that lived there. You can't have a safe and healthy community unless you know everything about everyone who lives there.
Right. Yeah, there you go.
Right.
Huh.
So it's like preemptive. It's the Bush doctrine at the local level. If they know about me and they know that I have a potential for criminal behavior, or I have a potential for alcohol or drug addiction, or I have the potential for abusing my children, then the new government intervenes on me before I do these things. And the only way they can do that is if they have a complete, total database of every living person and thing. It's just not people, too. It's everything. It's every plant, all the water. They've already cataloged everything on the planet, and now they're convincing us that they are better equipped scientifically and morally, that in order to save the planet and to create a peaceful and healthy world, we have to give in a little, okay? It's not a lot. Mm-hmm. They make it sound good, it's giving up a little bit of rights.
Huh. And, this also sounds like actually it's tying in a lot with the technological advancements, because as you talk here, I'm imagining this, futuristic type world where actually everything is more tracked, more monitored, more regulated. We're talking about RFID chips everywhere, surveillance going in. Do you think that the rise of all of these things have been been happening basically because of a communitarian type philosophy? It lies behind the governments today. Yes,
and that's what I spent 10 years putting on my website, is all the quotes, all the the books that they've written, all of the ways that they define it. What I had to do for myself, is I can understand modern communitarianism. I can identify all their language. I can look at a plan and tell you exactly where they got the information. But what I wanted to understand for myself was the philosophy and how they're justifying this. How City of Seattle could tell me that my rights have been balanced, because I'd never heard of it. And when you go back and study some of their philosophers, which, you can go back all the way to the beginning of written history, Aristotle's got stuff on it. They use Plato. I had to really,